Hi, welcome to BlackHoles&Books. Today we're going to be doing a project while I talk about some of the books that I've recently read. I'm going to start off, going to explain the project to you. So basically, I have this bookshelf. Ta-da, look at her. So it's just an IKEA bookshelf. It's not super big. What I've wanted to do for a while is we have these nice blank sides and it's just empty and blank, and I want to do something fun with it. What I'm going to do is a few years back, I was in Lyon, France, and there I came to find out there's a street that's named after the author of The Little Prince. So, what I want to do is kind of paint their street sign on the side of my bookcase. So, let me show you what the street sign looks like just as a frame of reference. So, it looks like that. It's like they just put it on the side of the building and it's like the street name. But I thought that was really cool. I thought it was like, I don't know, I was just wandering around and then I saw that. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the coolest thing ever. And this is where I don't know if I'm crazy or not, but I could have sworn when I walked by it, there was like underneath the street sign, there was a painting of the Little Prince. So, like, let me show you what I'm talking about. So, like, here's my copy of The Little Prince. It was like just a little painting of him. It was under that street sign. And I thought that was the cutest thing. I didn't, as you saw from the picture, like, I didn't catch the Little Prince under the street sign. And later, so I went on like Google Earth to like try and find it, and it's not there. Like, they don't, like, you can see the street signs and there's no painting of the Little Prince. And so that's why I'm like, maybe I was crazy, and maybe what happened was like I saw the street sign and I thought it would be a good idea to like paint the Little Prince underneath. And so now my memory is, oh, there's a painting of the Little Prince under the street sign, or maybe it actually was there and it just wasn't when like Google took those photos. I have no idea. I could have sworn there was a painting of the Little Prince under the street sign. So I like that idea. So we're gonna paint that on my bookshelf. I hope that makes sense. I'll show it to you when during the process and it'll make sense. That's kind of the goal. That's the project for today. The first step I want to do before I start painting on my bookshelf is I want to draw it like just on a piece of paper so I kind of have it like more in my mind. So first things first, we're going to do that. And then we'll start working on painting it onto my bookshelf. I have my little sketchbook. While I'm working on this, I've read a few books lately that I just kind of wanted to talk about. The first one that I have read that I'm going to talk about, I don't remember what order I read all of these in, but I'm pretty sure Assistant to the Villain was one of my first ones. Anyway, we're talking about Assistant to the Villain. I read that one a few weeks ago, and like overall, I liked it. I think it was like a pretty good book. It was kind of even more like a cozy fantasy type book. Like, it's a fun read. It's not like earth shattering, but overall, I think it was pretty good. I will say, I read Apprentice to the Villain afterwards, and that one felt a lot more of like a drag for me. I think a large part of the problem is I'm not a huge romance person. Assistant to the Villain was less romantic. Like, the romance was a bit more of a subplot, and so I was like a lot. It didn't bother me. It was like I appreciated it being there, but it wasn't overwhelming. Whereas for Apprentice to the Villain, the romance was a lot more like taking off, and they're trying to figure out their feelings, blah blah blah. All the romantic stuff that I just don't really care much for. And so I thought about DNFing Apprentice to the Villain. The characters were being really annoying. I'm not a big romance person. The moral of the story, Apprentice to the Villain was getting really annoying for me. And I was annoyed. I didn't want to, like, I was really very seriously considering not finishing it because I was just like so annoyed and like kind of fed up with it. But I did finish it, and like, I don't know, because it leaves off on a cliffhanger. And so then I don't know if the third book's out, but I also am not sure that I really want to bother with it because it's just kind of being annoying. I don't know. Here's the thing. I would read the next one if it was something where it's like I had a lot, like I was in a point in my life where I just had a lot of free time But right now, with like school and work and everything, I don't have a lot of free time. And so I don't really want to spend it reading something like that where I'm not really going to like enjoy it. I know this about myself and I'm not going to try and change it. Like, what's the point? Anyway, I think overall, I would say Assistant to the Villain, I'd probably rate like a 3 stars, and then Apprentice to the Villain, probably more like 2, maybe 1.5. Like, the next book that I read is Lessons in Chemistry. I read this one because, like, I don't know, it'd been like coming up. I think it's decently popular. It's been out for a while though. It's not like new or anything. But this one, it was good. I feel like I got annoyed with it because Lessons in Chemistry talks a lot about like feminism and also religion. The feminism part did not bother me at all. I liked it. I thought it was good. I think, yeah, women can be scientists. Well, duh. Welcome to the club. I will say the religious aspects of it, I did get a little annoyed with just because there was like kind of this idea of the book. Like one of the themes was like, if you're religious, you're stupid and don't believe in science. And that just personally really irks me. Like this insinuation of like science and religion being mutually exclusive just irked me. The way they talked about religion, and other than that, I think it was good. Like you do kind of have this like found family trope that goes into it that I think is really nice. And they are very emphatic of like, no, women are smart. Women should be allowed to have like opportunities. I mean, overall, I think it's a good book. Like I say I had issues with it and it doesn't I don't say like I had issues with it and thus I didn't like the book or I think it's stupid or I think I wasted my time. Like genuinely like I think this was a good book. Cause I think it's important to read things where it's like not necessarily going to agree with everything you think or agree with. As much as I don't like having people insinuate that, like, because I believe in God, I'm stupid and don't believe in science, like, I know that's not true, but it doesn't mean I'm just going to, like, not listen to people who say that. Like, I am still going to listen to them because otherwise they're not going to listen to me when I try to explain, like, no, that's not true. That was one of the books where reading it, I was like, this is not a book I agree with, but it is still a good book. If that makes any sense. I feel like I'm going to get through talking about all these books because I'm getting really distracted talking. I'm talking more than I'm actually drawing. And I feel like that's being kind of an issue. Anyway, I'm just going to draw for a second. So, okay. Here he is with his bow tie and his little belt. It's not the best drawing, but honestly, I think it's good enough. And we're going to get this onto the bookshelf. All right, we are ready. The plants are moved. Sorry, let's go ahead and start talking about the next book I read, which was called Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. I read this, actually finished it, I think last night, and it was pretty good. Like, I don't know, I enjoyed it. In this book, it feels like there's a lot going on, but I'm sure they're all related somehow. But you start out knowing that there's someone cutting people's heads off, and so they're finding all these heads, but they don't know like whose heads they are. Or yeah, I don't know if the heads get identified actually, but they don't know where the bodies are. They're just finding these random heads and they're like, where the frick's the body? Not a clue. Anyway, and so that's like the big thing that's kind of like going on, that people are like, what's going on? Is it safe? That's kind of like the climate of the area we're in right now, is they're just kind of like local officials are worried about this problem. Oh, sorry. Also, before I get, the paladins are, they have like this polytheistic deity religion type thing going on. I don't fully understand what goes on there, but they have like a bunch of different gods. You work for these different gods. Well, like you might, not everyone does, but like there are these different gods. But then some of the gods will have these people called paladins who are kind of like they're soldiers, but a bit more divine. Anyway, different gods may or may not have paladins. So like I think the rat, they say like that god doesn't have paladins, like he doesn't have his own paladins. But then there's this god, the Saint of Steel, who's I don't know if there's anyway. It said that like so anyway, our main character, I don't know if its name is Stephen or Stefan. Like it's spelled Stephen, which in my mind I always read as Stephen, but that may be because I grew up with a kid who spelled it like that and his name was Stephen, but it may actually have been supposed to be Stefan. I have no idea. But anyway, Stephen was a paladin for this one god who like died, and it was very traumatic. Like his god dying was just hard on everyone who worked for that god. Like they all went like crazy for a little bit, but now, well, they went crazy. A bunch of them died because they went crazy and or killed each other. But he's one of the ones who like didn't die and didn't kill himself. And so they get taken in by like the rat god people because they're just kind of like, oh, like they're really nice about it. And they're just like, come here, like you'll be safe. We'll let you heal from all the trauma you just had. So like Steven's living with like the rat god now with like a few of the other surviving paladins. And they just kind of like do like they'll do things for the rat god. Like one of the things he does is like, oh, there's this doctor who needs to like go take care of patients in this like poor neighborhood. A bunch and these random heads are showing up. Can you just like go with him and make sure he doesn't die? Like they just kind of do stuff like that now, which you know doesn't seem the worst. And then they just kind of like live there. Yeah, that's kind of the premise. Anyway, he ends up meeting this one girl who's a perfumer, and her best friend is a spy. Because why not? I guess. I don't know. They're cool. Oh, he like there's this assassination attempt that like goes really wrong, but they can tell it was supposed to go wrong. Anyway, it's like really weird. And so he's like working with her and the spy to like try and figure it out. I need to find a circle thing to like make the edges of this. So I will be right back. Oh wait, never mind. So they're kind of I might need to move this a little bit. No freaking thing. Come on. Just no freaking. Okay. Hopefully that's good. Okay, perfect. Yeah, anyway, it's just I feel like I can't super explain this without giving away details, but I will say I could see myself reading at least the next book in the duology. Like, I didn't fall in love with it, but it was good. Again, I didn't feel like I was wasting my time. I was pretty content with it. I did find it interesting. So, I'll probably try and get access to the next one in this little series duology thing. Overall, I'd say it was pretty good. I don't think I really had, well, I did have one complaint. And again, this is just kind of goes back to I'm not a romance person, and I felt like the romance in this book went way too fast. But again, I understand. Like that's probably more like. Sorry, I'm gonna move the bookshelf back. Anyway, I felt like the romance moved pretty fast. Trying to like work on these mysteries. And like a lot of the mysteries of like stuff that's going on doesn't actually get answered in this book, and I think that's because again, like it's supposed to be I don't know if it's like a series or just a duology, but like there are supposed to be like at least one next book. Yeah, I would recommend it. I think it's good. I think it's fun. Also, I'm going to show you what I've done so far. So anyway, this is what I have so far. Like it's literally just the outline for the street sign, and then I need to write the words in here, and then I'll probably do like the Little Prince like here-ish. So for the next book that I read, I actually really enjoyed this one. And that one was Red Rising. So I actually have it right here. So it was great. This is the kind of book that's very much like right up my alley. I thought it was like really well written. I liked the plot. I thought things were very interesting. In this book, or this trilogy, I guess, they have like this color caste system. Darrow is like a color red, which is like puts him at like the bottom of the caste system. And so basically he's essentially a slave. That's really all he is. And I don't want to give away too much. Granted, it does say this on the back, so I don't feel too bad about doing it. Anyway, he's married and he loses his wife. And so that's kind of what pushes him to become involved in the rebellion. The rebellion was like kind of already there, but it's just struggling to gain traction. It's a trilogy, and then there's like more books afterwards that, from my understanding, those books are like, you have like this, and then this is like, the next books are like 20 years later, I think. Anyway, I thought it was great. I love this book. I'm really excited to start the second one, but again, I haven't started it because I keep getting books on Libby. Also, sorry, this is just a funny little tangent. So like, I copied my reference photo for The Little Prince came from like the illustrations. It's like it just came from the book. And I can't help but notice it's like, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly, that the illustrations in here were done by like the author himself. Drawing this, it seems like he positioned The Little Prince so that you wouldn't have to like draw his hands and fingers, because like hands and fingers are hard. And honestly, especially right now, I really appreciate the fact that he did that, because it means I also don't have to draw hands and fingers. Let me show you. Okay. Here is like the sketching so far. So we have our street sign, and then we have the Little Prince drawn there. So now it's time to start painting. Anyway, those are all of the books that I've read recently. I do want to talk a little bit about the books that I'm planning on reading soon. The first is Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. And I read the first book, honestly, a long time ago. Like, it was several years ago. And I actually didn't mean to read it. Like, my younger sister, was the one who had checked it out from the library. And I had just happened to read all of my books that I had checked out already. And so I went and stole her book. She wasn't reading it at the moment that I was born. So I grabbed it and I started reading it. And I tended to do that a lot as a kid. Like, I would just like grab my siblings' library books when I was done with mine. Typically when I took my siblings' books, I would read at most like the first 100 pages. And then I would kind of like call it a day. And then generally they'd either want the book back, or I just wouldn't be interested anymore, or whatever. Did not happen with this book. Like, I started it probably in like the morning, whatever, and I read it for the rest of the day and like finished the book. And because I just got so sucked into it, and I didn't mean to, it just happened. And I think that's kind of a credit to Brandon Sanderson. Is a very talented author. I'm not always the biggest fan of Brandon Sanderson. Like, I've dabbled with his stuff a few times, and sometimes I have a hard time with it. Like, I just don't enjoy it a ton. I will say he is a good author. But I could hear you guys saying, you said you read that several years ago. You may have forgotten a lot. And honestly, fair. The thing is, throughout the years since reading it, I've also listened to the audiobook of Skyward a few times. And for that reason, I know the story pretty well. I'm not too worried about missing some details. I got Starsight on Libby, so I will be reading that. I'll probably be reading that this week, just because, again, I need to read it before it returns. And then other than that, like I mentioned earlier, I need to read The Golden Sun, the Red Rising sequel. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it'll be really good. It'll be so fun. Be a great read. Other than that, sorry, this is more. I have been reading this book for a while, and that is this book. It is a short hit. Oh, I have been writing this wrong. Oh my gosh. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, it's a short history of nearly everything. I always think it's a short summary of nearly everything for some reason. And it's not. It's a short history of nearly everything by Bill Bryson. Anyway, this is a great book. This is actually me rereading it because, again, I read this book in high school for the first time and I loved it. It's science nonfiction, but it is so interesting. It is so well written. Like, I've read two other books by Bill Bryson and I loved both of those as well. So one was A Walk in the Woods and the other was The Body by Bill Bryson, and they're so good. He's a really good author, and he writes nonfiction generally. I don't know if he's written any fiction. I've only read his nonfiction stuff. I hear plenty of arguments of like science nonfiction is really boring. Why would I want to read about things that are real? But like, here's the thing: like, you read things like Bill Bryson, and you're just like, whoa, who needs fantasy? Like, real life is very, very interesting. But anyway, short history of nearly everything is like literally one of my most favorite books ever. And I originally read it in high school, and then a few years ago, I decided to get my own copy of it because, again, it was my dad's copy that I read originally. Anyway, I got my own copy and decided to start annotating it. And I've been doing that for like the past few years. I've been reading it very, very slowly. I went to all the trouble of like writing in the sign for this, and then I've just painted over it, and you can't see it at all. And so I'm like, what the fuck? Why did I do that? That was stupid. Waste a lot of time. The reason I bring up short history of nearly everything, I am hoping that I can get it, like finish annotating it here soon, because there's another science nonfiction book that I want to read, and that's called The Disappearing Spoon. So I have it right here. This one's by Sam Keene. This one's about chemistry and like the periodic table, and the front cover says The Disappearing Spoon and Other True Tales of Madness, Love, and the History of the World from Periodic Table of Elements. So seems interesting. Like, I have started it before and it was very interesting. I just haven't finished it, and then I was focused on short history. Where did I put that? Anyway, minor details. So, but once I finish annotating short history of nearly everything, I want to read and annotate this book. So, and I've been wanting to do that for a while. So I need to finish up short history. Anyway, that's kind of my TBR for right now. Obviously, it might change. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've been wanting to read. There probably are other books that I'm just not thinking of right now. Okay, we have the blue painted for the sign, and now I'm going to work on the little prints. I'm going to try priming it this time to see if maybe that makes the paint stick better. All right, we'll give that a second to dry. I'm gonna go rinse these paintbrushes real quick and get myself some new water, and then we'll start painting the little prints. A day later, it ended up looking like this. I'm pretty happy with it. I did struggle quite a bit getting the letters right, and so they look a little funky. It's hard for me to write letters with a paintbrush. But anyway, that's kind of our final look. It's not perfect, but I like it anyway.